Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds, I'm Nerdicus Dave, and I'm hanging out with the guys from Coven Games to talk about Out of the Mall today. Got Ethan and Chris with me today. If you guys would be so kind to kind of introduce yourself a little bit and tell everyone about you, we'll start with you, Ethan.
Yeah, as you said, I'm Ethan. I'm mostly just the editor for our little book. I do a bit of not typesetting. What's it called? Proofreading. That's the one. And that's why I shouldn't be a proofreader, everyone. Um, no, I mostly do proofreading, sort of putting it all into one big document. A bit of writing here and there, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Uh,
I
and uh,
mean, there's not too much interesting about it, so I'm gonna make it short.
no, you're good, man. I'm Chris. I'm just lead writer, technically co-owner of Coven Games. Um, but really that's just technical stuff that we wanted to get done just in case. But yeah, I mean, we just made something. It came from all of our table. Like I'm gonna just jump into it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, jump in there, man.
Screw it. I don't know.
Throw some elbows.
It came from our table. It literally is a passion project. Basically, we all came together from a Discord server. I was like looking for players. I didn't have enough D&D when I jumped in to the hobby. I had my home group and I was buying minis and I was doing all this great stuff that everybody does when they get into it. And was like, I threw the net out there digitally, found like 10 people all at once. We threw them into two different groups. So I started running, I had 3 games running all at once. But 2 of them were set in like the same campaign. We had all these great adventures. But always sitting in the back of the setting was like, I had a lot of time, worked at a rice mill, real boring. Um, and so I just had time to sit there and think about how this weird fantasy world come into being. And so sometimes you'll start top down, or bottom up, one city or something like that. But I started with the creation myth, and always at the beginning of it was this creature behind me. I don't know if left or right shows it better, but it doesn't matter. The Hungering Maw. But it's just a big old nasty space. I mean, that's one visual of it, but it can be whatever you need it to be, as many Eldritch horrors should be. Um, and I don't know. It was just always the antithesis to a really good entity, something that wanted to consume the world and change it. And um, we made a bunch of crazy stuff along the way, and we kind of had these 2 campaigns culminate with like them both parties fighting him in different areas on the plane, and like uh, both winning the fight and big bad evil guy slain, hopefully forever, that kind of vibe.
It was.
But that's what they all assume. They all assume it's going to come back.
We damn well know it's going to come back.
Which means that I did a good job, I think. But
so let's back up a little bit, and
yeah.
Folks, if you're interested in figuring out and
Please.
seeing more information about Out of the Mall, there are links in the description. Go check them out. What is Out of the Mall?
It is a big old. It's pretty big. We can throw some elbows here and there. It's definitely more than 64 pages. And
I think
I'm not
the
naming
creatures
names.
alone are about like 50,
Yeah.
60.
Yeah. But it's already going to be around 120-ish right now. And we've got it's going to be 2 adventures, or sorry, technically 3. If I recall, no, two. Sorry, we've bounced around a lot of ideas. It's 2 adventures. One is a high-level adventure that I'm writing. The other one is a 3 to 5, correct?
Yeah, just a little sort of introductory.
It's more, and then the rest of it is mostly a monster manual and encounter tables to accompany them. Things that like change the weather, things that and every single monster has just really sick art. Detoria Art made it. He was at our table playing through all of this with us, so it was like, again, born of all of us playing together. And yeah, a whole bunch of spells and like corrupted magic items within it, that we have suggestions for, like quests and cleansing rituals and that kind of thing. Just things that help the DM present the story of these monsters, which was always the focus for me. Is because, to be frank, I watched videos like y'all, like, and videos like Cody's, where it's, just how do you run these games, how these specific monsters, and the partnerships. I always loved the fairy dragon in the animated suit of armor, if I recall the correct one, because that was great. Because you can shove them inside and you got multiples and they take turns whenever they rolled initiative, and it's insane. So again, like watching videos like y'all's and like just getting inspired by that and being like, okay, I want my players when they see a monster or to learn about it or get clues about it as they, um, just to dis I lost my train of thought there. Sorry. To that the monster should tell a story as you go along, Like it's not just something to hit on the head. Now sometimes you need, a couple brawlers, but even those brawlers have an origin somewhere in your world. Especially these creatures, like even the worms, these nasty blade slug larvae, they came from earthworms corrupted by whatever you might need, as DM, a meteorite that fell, and very classic there, or
Random
just
cultists poisoning the earth with various
poisoning the
potions of
old,
their own
yeah,
design, something
uh,
like that.
celestial alignments, whatever you as a DM feel also fits your setting, and like nothing in the book is ever going to be intended to like it's always suggestions, like, and I wanted to have a fair bit of advice in there, and like, because I've done a lot with these monsters already, and we've done a lot of play testing and put a lot of love into it.
What was the turning point from like this is just something I'm using in my game to I want to put this out there into the world? What was kind of the impetus for that?
So I mean, I've always wanted to write something, never really knew what it was going to be. That sounds very stupid when I say it aloud, always, but that was always the thing I wanted to do because I loved reading as a kid. And like um after our games kind of wound down, I started to make like a draconic sub or no, during our games, I was making a draconic subclass for someone to play. Um and then I was like to Detoria, in our group, like, hey, you do art. I like your stuff. Like, would you mind making like just a kobold breathing fire for me? A cute, diminutive little kobold, but I want like a beautiful raw gout of flame. Because you put that on a little subclass packet, it looks nice. I was imagining it, and I'm like, and he did that. I made the subclass. The character inevitably he died by being transported to the Hungering Maw, actually, and I had no way to save him because he was a lower level and like that's but again, stories were told and he
Yeah.
loved it and his guy went out swinging like a boss. But so we made that little thing, and then the next morning, I think I woke up to about 3 to 5 creatures, all like fully rendered, fully done. Detoria had like a machine just banged out 3 to 4 designs, fully everything done. And I was like, what? So I woke up to Nightmare Fuel. What's this? And I, he just was like, yeah, I was thinking, we could do something bigger. And like, we kind of just got the ball rolling. And so he would just create nightmares and I would put names on them and I would do all the numbers and I would do all the design work. And then when I felt relevant, I would like start to trickle them into the game, and we started to build up the big bad evil guy. And then basically, I had a lot of towards the end of the campaign, most of the art's done, and like it's on me to finish my writing and stuff. But I'm having all this just real life get in the way, as it often does. I'm like about to move. I'm trying to like get a realtor to find someone to handle stuff and like get out of my parents' home because they passed on, and like um no real family around to help around with this kind of thing. And so you just like let's bail and go somewhere new. And yeah, and so we had a small I was in Missouri for a little while. Project was basically on hiatus except for maybe some tweaks here and there. Once we moved to New Jersey, I was in a much better place to work, to be honest, to get up every day in a better environment mentally and to just work.
I thought you were
And
going to say New Jersey is just nightmare fuel for you. So
no. So it helps. The traffic and the driving, yes. I have never
The
been
eldritch
honked.
horror of New Jersey is truly the inspiration for this book.
I have never been honked at more than in New Jersey, for
Yeah.
real. Like it happens constantly.
We'll let you
But
know.
like, yeah, which is fine. It just scares me because I'm not used to it. But I've also met some very friendly people in checkout lines and just random places where you'd be like, oh, you wouldn't expect anyone to be nice there. Especially, because coming from the South, you always hear, Southern hospitality, the Northerners, they don't do it like a. No, you just gotta find the right people, and you gotta, as anywhere, because you
Well,
can find
on
a
the
jerk
plus
in the
side-
South too.
On the plus side, you're more likely to find people that are going to let you know how they really feel one way or the other instead of just being nice to you.
Rather than fake. That is what I legitimately have seen that, and I like that. I met this old dude just in the checkout line, and I don't remember, I can't remember his name, but we introduced each other because we were sitting there, and he's complimenting the checkout clerk because me and him are bonding about how much we hate the self checkout lines, and I'm like, I am an old man at heart. I'm really, but I'm bonding with this dude, and he had the thickest like Boston accent, and I'm like, I love him. This is great. I love that I moved here. This is a good choice.
This
and
is a good choice, sir. Please get in my trunk. I'm taking you.
Yeah, I'm taking you. I need your help.
This took a turn.
He has wisdom, and I need him.
Yeah.
But like,
couldn't
for
you just
real,
get in the back seat, man?
look,
Why did it have
maybe.
to be the trunk?
Maybe the trunk is very big. I do have a van, so it's
Yeah.
like, you'll be comfy. I'll put the AC on. But like,
I
it's
gotta say, get in the back of my van. It's not better.
no, it's not. You're right. It's not better.
What if he added that he had candy and puppies? Would that make it better?
Maybe.
Yes, because I have windows as well, so it's not as bad. It's not as But let's see. After we got here, I basically Ethan asked me straight up, like, hey, would you like any help with the book? And like putting it together. He's like, I dabbled in that before, kind of thing, and like I would like to get more experience in that, and I would be helping a friend. And I'm like, this involves like a lot of trust, because at this point I had pretty much like bought the assets from Vittoria because we had he continued with his business. I wanted to continue with this project, so we just went two separate ways there, and Ethan stepped up to do the layout and stuff, and I'm talking like in days we had a viable product like that. I've seen products that are much worse, for sure, being sold, and it was in a couple days that he banged it out, and it's because it's a combination of the artwork, the unique abilities, and just fun stuff there. A couple blurbs to actually help people. It all comes together.
You're really selling it, man. You're like, I've seen stuff that's worse.
It's very true. There's not. Yeah, for sure. We're gonna put that on the tagline. Yeah. It
could
always
be worse.
Look, I always want to be honest with people. Like, we're never gonna be like, I literally own the company that's going to be trying to put this bad boy out, and this is never going to be anything other than what we say it is. And I think that's very important, and we intend to meet the deadline as well, because again, it's basically done. We just want to add whatever backers end up thinking that we deserve, if we deserve that.
Real quick, I want to digress a little bit. Ethan, you're the editor. Editors are the unsung heroes of anything that gets written and becomes a finished product, and it's like you never see what a good editor does. You only see what a bad editor doesn't.
Well, let's hope you don't see things that I didn't do, I guess. But yeah, in all honesty, I've been very much sung in this one. Like basically every half a week it's from Chris. Oh yeah, great, love it, thanks. Next. I mean, that's pretty much all I need. Also on the point of us promising a good product, that's what we got you for. Like, to be fair, I wouldn't trust two random dudes on the internet I've never seen before to tell me their book's good.
It's fair.
Well, everyone starts somewhere, and the cool thing about this hobby is like we're especially if you're a GM or DM, you're creative, you're creating, right? But the trick is being a creative and creating stuff that other people can use. Just because not all DMs are game designers, right? And sometimes we like to think we are, but there's a huge difference between someone who's a professional game designer and someone who's just a GM. Because it's one thing to make something that you can make, and this is where editors have helped us a lot. It's one thing for us to make something that we can run and have a table enjoy and be a fun experience, but it's really another thing to put something out there that someone else who doesn't know what you're thinking, isn't in your head, is going to be able to take that and use it in order to have a good time with their table. That's the real trick.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
I
that's the
mean,
real point in the end.
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I think I would like to think we've done that because not only do we've run it by people who literally don't DM, but people who also just they've played a couple games here and there, and even beyond that, Ethan's done a lot of good work to make sure that we've had the space and stuff to actually put blurbs where we feel needed, like to really flesh out, like, hey, here are some real story beats you can draw on with this, even though, in the description, we already give you a good amount of just chunky, I would say not lore, but like, hey, here's examples of where this monster appears in the world, how it might be created, that kind of thing.
Basically, this is what the monster is about.
Yeah.
But we also, like, on a good few of them, pretty sure at this point it's nearly all of them,
It's
have
pretty much
little
all of them, yeah.
boxes with just how can you use this monster best.
Yeah.
Let me think of an example. The dragon. Spoilers, there's a dragon. It doesn't have wings. So
Yeah,
how does one use this? And there's a little text about how to perhaps use its lair to its advantage.
and
Things like that. I don't remember the exact wording of the blurb though.
No, that's fine. It's mostly, hey, when you are going at making its lair as the DM, because let's be real, you create the world. When you create the lair, it needs to be small enough to where legitimately this dragon can reach both sides of its lair, or it can cross the full distance of the width of its lair in one movement without using a dash. You do not want your legendary monster to have to be dashing across his own lair like he's doing a Benny Hill bit,
Could be fun.
It could be funny, but then you're burning all your lair actions to fling people around and stuff. That's fun, but then no actions, no. So it's just something simple like that, But beyond that, it also goes into like, hey, this dragon essentially has just tendrils everywhere, and it can pick things up and throw them as a part of its legendary action, and I believe its action as well. And so it's like it goes on to be like, hey, populate the layer with explosive barrels if you need to. Like, not only like acidic pools that it could throw you into, put a chandelier there. Yeah, other creatures
that it could throw at your players.
Yeah. Like pitfall traps, which are always good for this kind of thing, because then you can integrate that into the dungeon itself and have, oh, there's a pit of snakes down there too. Boom. Like, it's just stuff like that. And they're not all super detailed, but some of them I try to keep them nice, short enough to be useful, and but give you a couple of good ideas.
You mentioned a high level adventure. What do you consider high level?
This one, as most people would say, like, we don't have too many that are high level. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, right now it is 12 to 17 or 12 to 16. It's gonna be 4 chapters, and it ends at 16, I believe. I do have plans for something after, but that's kind of it's a bit bigger in scope because high level play does end up getting like a bit intense. You need bigger maps sometimes. You need we're going to space. You need bigger things. So like the buildup of the adventure does indeed have room, and the end of it has room to lead into a greater invasion or that kind of thing, or whatever the DM chooses. But Yeah, so that's an option. And I mean, but again, that kind of comes down to what support we have, because in reality, the more we put in the book, like I gotta spend more when it comes to the printer. And so it just comes down to getting the support we need to actually get that many sick adventures in there. But right now it's like set in the Telemar Flats, just this completely, made up place we have. To be frank, it's kind of modeled after my hometown and just how I feel about it and all the good things about it. And yeah, it goes all over the place. But yeah.
To be fair, since we were on the topic of high level play, it's a pretty much a general theme that the creatures in this book go up to quite a high CR ceiling.
True.
Not
Yeah.
sure if you read it before, but the maw itself is like a CR 30 thing, and the
True.
lowest creature we have is like at a quarter.
Yeah,
and it
there's not many of
basically
them.
stretches the entire breadth between.
Yeah, we did
So there should be something for every challenge level you're aiming for, pretty much.
that's the hope. And which are why there's also encounter tables in there for that, for literally up until I believe I have the level 18 ones already finished, and we just need to bang out the last ones, because again, that's where you as a DM really have to think, like, level 16 to 18 or 16 to 20. How do I challenge this party in a way that isn't just a bunch of hit
throwing
points?
15 dragons at them?
Yeah. And I usually find it's the environment, which is pretty fun to mess with. And then, like high gravity, you can't magically fly, or, things that kind of challenge them, or, hey, we're in another dimension where verbal components take twice as long, or weird things, or just, I don't know. I wouldn't do that, but that was just off the top of my head because that seems a little mean to your casters. But
Indeed, it does.
you get me.
I
But
say, as someone
yeah,
who only plays
as
wizards.
favorite, yeah. Yeah, but
Feeling
again,
a little picked on.
I'm attacked. Yeah, I'm being oppressed. No, yeah, I don't know. Like, high level D&D really does come down to those types of things, and that takes a lot more prep, which is again why the monsters themselves, if the high level monsters you're using already kind of come with stories and come with ideas and come with a good way to integrate them into your world, it makes it much easier to run those types of games. And like, I mean, in my experience at least, I mean, who doesn't like having a beholder fight? That's always useful. Having those big CR monsters that can really be iconic and scare them is great. And when you throw like a flesh melting, like an angel who has like no face anymore and tattered wings and a sword that just tears you up, and literally like this flesh melting aura, you remember that creature. And then you remember that's not the big guy in charge actually. And you're like, and you get terrified of what might come, that's the idea, at least I hope.
My go-to
it,
move for dealing with high level players is mind control the the person who does the most damage.
Get the barbarians.
That's very fair.
I kid, but in one of the games that I did run, it just so happened that the one character got mind controlled basically both sessions back to back. But the second one, I swear, it was not my fault. It was a create an adventure that I had run, and so I did not create that monster or that character at all.
That's so funny. It can be a real problem. Like, for instance, like, yeah, that loss of agency. It can be, if you have a good player who's like willing to roll with the punches. And I had one player who recently blew my mind when she role played getting mind controlled. I was like in love. It was great. It was amazing. But there's specifically a creature in the book, Adoration, which is like it feeds on the love and the faith, basically, of people worshiping it. It can dominate essentially an entire group of people if you're failing them saves hard enough. But in that blurb, it's specifically like, hey, you as a DM, you need to give them a lot of agency when it comes to role playing and playing up how they're going about this. Like, do not. We're all here at this table together. Don't rock that boat. And because that's not your job as a DM. Your job is to tell a story with your players, and and a story needs antagonists and good ones.
So, me personally, I I kind of love when my characters get mind control because I like that.
That's fair.
I'm like literally trying to win D&D at that point.
Yeah, you
Against the
chess
rest of the
master style.
party.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Like the one
Totally.
player, when I did it to him, he's like, well, I'm mind controlled, but how mind controlled am I? I'm like, well, dude, what would your character do if you consider these people an enemy? And then there was two characters that were brothers, and he's like, well, my brother I consider the most powerful person in the party, so, and then they just went to town.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
The trick really is to just get yourself a
Pick
player
the-
who's down for getting mind controlled.
Yeah.
Basically,
does sound
someone
like
who's
it.
always on the brink of PvP, but just barely held back by the conditions of society.
It
Which
should be on-
is funny because I'm actually, as a GM and generally as a player too, I'm against PvP, but I figure, once mind control
Agreed.
happens,
That's different.
Yeah,
It's
at
completely
that
different.
point, you have a good in-character reason to do it.
Yes.
it's
Yes,
you have
exactly.
plausible deniability.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
perfect. At
you
that
point-
point, it's all the DM's fault.
And you
can
point to the
your
DM.
fingers.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say the same thing. I'm the DM and I will take the blame. Yes.
So
It's my fault. I did it.
we've got a
No
question
killer.
from chat, and
For sure.
it kind of relates in a roundabout way to aberrations.
Yeah. What's up?
Your book is basically about aberrations.
It's pure aberrations, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So Shade Dragonblade. Hi, I have a question. Would it be possible
Very
to
epic
make
name.
a playable character that's a Warforged, but it has a Mind Flayer brain? It says Mind Flare, but I believe it's supposed to be Mind Flare.
I mean, I think that could work. I mean, there's
Their ceramorphosis has to take place, right? You can assume for most illithid transformations, right? As long as the Warforged had some type of organic parts to it, who's to
it really
say?
depends on like your imagination how Warforged work. Really, I
Yeah.
mean,
True.
they could be like souls trapped in a actual mechanical body. They could be weird mechanical approximations of organic things, and at that point, it would definitely work.
I could if you're doing some Cybermen Doctor Who stuff where it's I'm putting my mind flayers inside of Warforged to make them
They could all
scarier.
be mind flayers.
That's pretty great too. Like, I mean, it could be as simple as that. Like, if you're making a player race, is this as a DM?
So I take it as
That's what I would ask.
from a player standpoint, and as
Player
a player,
standpoint, wanting to
point,
get
you
a
definitely
DM
have
to buy
ask
into
your
it.
DM on it.
Yeah. But also, to me, it just depends too. Like, I mean, obviously, you always need your DM to buy in. But,
Always, but-
what are you trying to do? Are you like, I want to mind blast things as a mind flayer, or are you just in my backstory? I used to be a mind. Well, my brain is still a mind flayer brain.
Yeah, but I'm dealing with.
I'm
Sorry.
going through a thing. The thing being
Yeah.
this Warforge's head because someone put me there, either willingly, unwilling, or whatever. I'm like, sure, you can do that if it's just flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
sounds
interesting.
like a sick character concept.
And-
Actually, I'm
and that sounds
imagining
like-
sort of a big old jar like from Futurama, but with a robot body on it.
That's funny. Yeah, a big
Yeah, or
brain
you
bot.
can go full Krang style and just
Put him in the chest. Yeah,
put it right in
that's
the chest.
then it's all flavor, and then you're like, hey, how the party has figured out, okay, well, we can't walk into town with this, so buddy, we love you, but we gotta like disguise you up, and then you get
Gotta
to
leave you.
Can
like,
you put on
no,
a
you
shirt?
don't leave him. You put on a shirt and it cover up the Krang, and you put little eye holes like where the nipples would be, and that's because that's where the tank's eyes are, and then people just are like, oh well, I shouldn't look there, so they never notice. It's fine.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, for real, like as long as you get your DM, like I as a DM, I really like to believe that if you embrace the silly things, the player will really surprise you, and like they will, if you buy into their silly idea or their silly, oh, I've got this idea of a character that he shoots lasers out of his eyes, but blah blah blah. But you're like, okay, cool. How's he? What class is he? You like you entertain this idea. They will work with you later with other things. So like, as long as you can softball this to your DM right, why not? Like, you can easily be like, look, there could be Gith following me, because anytime you give a DM a direct way to bring in some antagonist that he could set up and pay off,
Or was it willing or unwilling? Like,
was it willing or
yeah.
unwilling? Yeah, and like you could do huge arcs there, which lots of, if that's your kind of table where you like to get into that kind of philosophical stuff, where literally, like, I don't know, like who's to say, that brought into mind like Gith trials for a second there, where I was like, what do they do? They don't do trials. That's what. It's like, no, probably not.
They do a
But
trial. It's called that silver that great silver greatsword they carry with them. That's
oh,
the
shit, there you
trial.
go. That's the trial. Yeah. Will your back and your spine hold up to this? Yeah. So again, yeah.
It kind
If
of
it
makes me
doesn't, you
think
were
about.
innocent. If it does, you were guilty. And then they
It
try
makes me
again.
think about like a mind flayer that decides to do it to themselves because they're like, we're mind flayers and we're pretty kick ass, but this fact that we need to eat brains all the time and these weak
That's a
bodies,
pain.
it's a
Hmm.
pain, right? So you're like, what do? I know. We insert
Upgrade.
ourselves into this construct, we upgrade, but maybe they miscalculated, they got something wrong, and it didn't work because they can't use their mind flayer powers now, the thing that made them superior to everyone else in their own mind. And so now the other mind flayers banish them and kick them out for being a failure, and they also ridicule them and make fun of them. So
Fair, yeah. Or you go in that same angle, like you're the one that flaked off from the hive as the system was turned on, or you have your, some brothers that were with you, sisters, etc. Like, and because even in canon, as far as I know, like Illithids still they have certain likes and dislikes individually, but they are controlled when near in the range. So as long as your character is not directly influenced by any psionic field and you have this player race, that's awesome. And when you did get near this field, that's just cool because now the DM can really mess with your character's head and like imagine in an Elder Brain, like you're in a Warforged body. Do you feel right in this body? What if if you didn't, and then all of a sudden you're like, now you do, because this Elder Brain is like sending these sensations that it remembers from all of these, because it's still the Elder Brain. Where is it in a giant robot too? Oh god, that blew my there for a second.
That gives me an idea too. You could
for real.
just be a stolen brain of an Illithid. Like some mad wizard was like, I want an Illithid servant, but they just tend to mind flame
They
me
tend to
all the
eat you.
time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put this one in a robot instead.
Yeah, I've gone through 6 clones and I don't like it. Yeah, I've had to clean my lab several times. Like, yeah, it's for real.
Might I
Like,
get out of robes so terribly.
give your DM the fuel for storytelling later. They're gonna be more than willing to let this character in, like this race in. Just make sure you're not leaning into mind blasts and
yeah,
be like, hey,
for me, it's always about like, what is it the player is really trying to do, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are they just trying to get one over and power game, or do they just have a cool idea that they want to try and play around
Explore.
with? So, how did you guys each get started in gaming?
Ethan, you want to go?
Sure. Well, I mean, gaming in general, or do you mean specifically tabletop gaming?
TTRPGs. Let's start there.
That's what I imagined. I actually got into it like really, really late. I think the first game I ever played, I was like 20, so like 5 years ago. I've only ever played 5e, so take my opinions on any other system with many grains of salt.
Mine too. Yeah.
I was basically just new in uni. I was like, let's make some friends. I saw this like post about actually like a DSR. I don't know what's called, Das Schwarze Auge, the black eye. Is that a thing in English speaking
I don't know it. I do not know it.
Dark Eye.
Dark Eye. That's a very good.
It is like it's like the D&D.
I don't like it. I really don't like it.
In Germany.
Oh, interesting.
So there was this group being formed on campus by some random people. I was like, I got time. I'm here. Sure, let's go. It didn't work out. I made a character that I later found out literally was unable to walk due to all the armor.
Awesome.
Which is a thing in that system, apparently.
Awesome. That's a great job.
However, I did also in that group meet someone who's now actually like a professional DM for D&D. Like she's she's really great. She got me into it. And from there on, I was basically addicted. So I started searching online for my fix when inevitably Lord Scheduling once again struck. And I was unable to get into a game for like half a year, and I was fucking fiending. So yeah.
And
Went,
then you heard the subtle quiet call of the hungering maw.
well, at that point, it was just the siren song of Chris offering to DM a game.
Yeah,
At
any
that point,
game.
I had no idea. At that point, the big bad evil guy was a fucking dragon. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. Actually, weird coincidence even. In that game, I played a sorcerer who accidentally zooped his parrots into some other dimension of evil and blackness, and that was his
Basically
sole
just
reason
Abyss,
to
yeah.
go out.
Oops.
And that's what I thought too.
Always
Apparently,
oops.
later it turned out he actually zooped them into the hungering maw somewhere, like into its territory, and they had terrible, terrible things done to them.
Nice.
Because that was also the thing. Because I was like, oh, where do aberrations come from? Where's the big daddy of them? And there you go.
Speaking of, actually, that was when he found that out. That was one of the, like, in my opinion, greatest sort of implementations of the more subtly fucking with things, because when he was finally, like, I don't know, fucking level 10 or something, he was able to teleport his parents back to him. However, the Maw obviously noticed that and went and looked, and so the moon blinked.
Oh,
And that was I think the first like obvious sign that there's some fuckery in the skies. That was the first thing we really noticed about that, or the first thing I remember at least.
I genuinely didn't expect the party to freak out like they did. They dropped everything they were doing and freaked out.
What did you expect?
Well, I don't know. Because sometimes, sometimes players joke around a lot. They'll be ha ha ha, it's funny. But no, everybody took it very serious, and I was very happy. I was very proud of my players. That's all.
You
and
never
my wizard
know.
was traumatized.
You just never know what the response is going to be.
Yeah, because that was improv as well. Like that was, and because it was all us building stories together, going crazy, and like, yeah. Because you basically made a deal with a Rakshasa. No.
No, I specifically
didn't.
refused his deal.
Specifically
because
didn't.
I hate doing deals with devils
demons and
demons
such.
and whatnot.
And then you went a different
filthy
way.
warlock to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
no, I'm a sorcerer.
I'm a sorcerer. I have standards.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
would be doing my deals with extraplanar entities with elementals, please. Thank you very much.
Yes. Things that only want to destroy when when they're around. But yeah.
What about you, Chris? How did you get started?
I'm Seth, one of my friends. He now lives in Canada, which is really crazy and cool. We went over to his dad's house, and like my friend Brant had brought me and my friend Michael over. So it was all of us getting together, and if I recall, I had made my character beforehand. It was the psionic crystal race from, I believe, 3.5. It might have been 4, but I'm not sure.
I think it was 3.5 too. And then maybe they got revamped again.
Okay.
I remember Nate on something with them.
I can't recall, but I recall them being like psionic and like just being able to do certain things, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I built my character around that, and like then we got to the game, and this is, to be honest, he's probably put this up there because Seth was DMing. He offered to do a game and like try to show us the game. And this is probably up there on his worst games he's ever DM'd, because me and Mike were so disrespectful. And so like we didn't know what were the manners and what we were supposed to do. And like, how bad like combat can be in 5e. You could be waiting for a while. When you throw someone brand new into this, and admittedly, he's like, I'm dragon fight. Hell yeah, let's go. But it can be so long. And so me and Mike inevitably start, and we're in his dad's like nice little lounge area, and it's like a place I've never been, like this nice and I'm like, and there's a pool table behind us. I'm just like, I don't know who it was who suggested it, I would like to hope it wasn't me, but either way, we were both rude enough to play in between when it wasn't our turns. And that was my first game. I didn't enjoy it very much because I wasn't invested and I wasn't, I wasn't enjoying it. One-offs have a tendency to not draw me in. But after that, I
Were you
kind of,
invited back?
oh, heck no, no.
I
For,
wouldn't
for,
have invited you back
no,
at that
heck
point
no.
either.
To hang
God.
out, yes, but not for D&D. To hang out at the place, yeah, but
They're
not for
like,
D&D.
you want to come
Not at
play
all.
pool tonight? Yeah.
Pretty much,
D&D?
yeah.
No.
No, not right now. No, I'm good. Yeah, I'd be like, that's fine. But then he ended up I got interested. I think I had seen some Critical Role episodes, some other streams here and there, and I started to look into it more. And it was when obviously fifth edition was getting bigger, and like we got together around my big old wooden table and shared snacks. And Seth was our DM, and we gave him the proper respect he deserved. We were good players, I like to think. Um, I still had to work through how to make a character properly. I had made like this charlatan paladin. I had an idea of he had a bunch of different holy symbols, and he prayed to whatever god would give him magic. So there's a fun idea there, but it was not where will it go? I don't know. But it was the Rise of Tiamat campaign. So I'm a paladin with a big sword, and eventually I feel useless at a certain point in the adventure. I'm not going to say when, I'm not going to spoil, but like, and instead of really being into it, being like, oh, I'm going to rush around and help these people, and like, I felt very useless and felt like, oh, so basically it was just like, well, I'm going to wait until this attack is over and I can do something useful after. So even then, still learning the ropes, but like, eventually Seth's work got entangling and just kind of taking his time. And he had to hand it over to me one day. So he hands me, because I was planning on starting with Storm King's Thunder in a little bit. I had been reading it and loving it. And he handed me his DM notes, which were practically incomprehensible to me. They were just, and it was like dozens of encounters all written out like in shorthand and like kind of bullet point style. And I'm like, oh no. And that first session was miserable. I was I was like having an anxiety attack the whole time. I bet I was shaking. I felt like that nightmare where you come to school and nothing's prepared, but you have
Yeah.
several exams. It was awful. And then the next session, I was like, I'm gonna use my notes. And it felt like a whole different game, a whole different world, and it was off to the races, so to speak. I've been searching for games ever since and just loving it. Yeah.
So you started GMing fairly early. You guys are both
Very
pretty
early.
new to the hobby, and that's
Yeah.
that's one of the cool trends I've seen with 5e and people getting into the hobby is like jumping
Yeah.
right in, going from we just started to GMing to I'm gonna like sell stuff.
It feels like a natural progression in a way, especially if you're really taking it. I hesitate to use the word serious because someone might take me out of context there and just be. But no, if you're like really are like I want to make something very itemized and perfect and try to just give it to people and make them. I hope they enjoy it. Like I don't know. There's an excitement there. There's an excitement there to getting it right and getting something special that people can go, I terrified my party with this. Here's this small story that you can listen to, and you you might have gotten to play a direct part in that human's life. You weren't at their table, but you experience that with them vicariously through the web of just human consciousness that it is. And that's beautiful. That's what any art can do, right? So I think that's probably why people do it. I think that makes the most sense. It's a very romantic idea, perhaps, but
No, I mean that's a huge part of why we do what we do.
it was
Is
always passion.
and and you just like people are just passionate about the hobby,
Yeah,
and you kind of want to take it beyond your table, and get your ideas out into the world.
for
So
real.
we have a question from Brian Smith. Movie, music, game inspirations for alien critters.
I watch a lot of Red Letter Media, so like immense amounts. Go to sleep with it. But so immediately you said critters, so I'm like, well, the movie Critters, because they are technically little tiny like furball kind of
Yeah,
creatures. They're it was a Gremlins knockoff
yeah.
basically, and they just go through tearing up the town. But in the meantime, there's also two alien bounty hunters trying to follow them and chase them. So it's also just a complete like kind of twist on just the monster movie at the time, and that's silly, obviously. But I mean, inspiration specifically for just creatures from space, like I for one of our we're gonna summarize it as we were in a space elf mega dungeon, um, and basically I introduced a creature. It's a celestial, and it's just what are those fish called? It's a not
Oh, that one.
the Pokemon is called Relenket, or I'm probably butchering how it's said, but it's like
I think
a
it's
and I'll
Relicanth or
yeah,
something.
and then I'll butcher the actual fish name. It's like a coelacanth or something. It's like an ancient fish. It looks like it's almost made of stone when they like when you look at it, and it has like just these kind of vestigial, just the vestigial look to it. And I kind of just and a lot of creatures underwater are very alien, right? So hence Cthulhu and mind flayers coming from cephalopods, but like I was like, let's put that in space. It's a big, like rocky kind of coral vibe to it, kind of a combination of that fish and like a tiger fish, if I recall correctly. The ones with all the spines and lots of colors, but like, and then
Lionfish
lionfish. Thank you,
is
not
it
tiger. Yeah,
poisonous? Yeah,
yeah, the ones that super poisonous. Yeah, or
yeah. My dad used to keep those, and like he'd be like
that's
Oh
cool.
God.
doing stuff in the tank,
Yeah,
and like
I would be
I'm
so scared at all times.
people. Yeah, if they're calm, they're totally chill. Yeah, it's only when they're threatened, as far as I know. But like, yeah,
Slight
like so.
disclaimer though, this cool fish he's describing is sadly not in the book, I'm pretty
It's
sure.
it's not it's not in this one, but it was an example of like a creature from so like it just has like lots of rocks upon it that are like stellar just objects that glow and and like you can grind them up for components and stuff like that if you're a wizard, but in general they're very territorial and like I just imagine it as this gigantic space fish that really that is a celestial, but it's not it's more in the sense that it resides in the skies, in the literal heavens.
yeah.
I didn't want to make something like that an aberration in this case, but yeah.
What is Red Letter Media? I'm not familiar with that.
Uh, uh Red Letter Media is basically if you've ever seen, I always say their most famous thing was the Mr. Plinkett reviews of all the prequels, of the Star Wars prequels.
Okay.
But nowadays they do lots of just movie reviews in general. I love them. They're kind of like a comedian's comedian kind of vibe, like it's like a YouTuber's YouTube kind of thing. Like they have
Okay.
a very small number. It's only like I think 1.5 million right now. But
You know, small numbers. A
I
million
mean,
and a half.
small compared to some channels, yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
in
so
in
they're
the
they're a
Gulf,
YouTube channel.
yeah, they're just YouTube channel out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they're just real cool. They're just funny. I don't know. They get drunk and watch VHS tapes and rag on them. That's about it. That's the best summary of it, I think.
Nice. So, um, what is the premise for the two adventures that you guys have come up with?
As far as the lower level one goes, Ethan wrote that one, and it's more about like, well, I mean, Ethan, you take it.
It's
You wrote that one.
basically supposed to introduce the actual idea of weird small
Things going on.
creatures trying to invade the world. So it starts off very low key, festival, random sleepy town. Seems normal at first. Things happen. They are not normal. Essentially, you end up finding out, spoilers for anyone who's going to be a player in this one, I guess. Although I suppose technically just at
It's
the end
gonna
they're gonna watch
change.
this video.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna spoil away because screw it. You basically get kidnapped by this maw alchemist who's trying to mutate you into this grotesque little creature. Well, not that little. Turned his dog into a. Have you
It's
seen? No, you hadn't seen, right?
it's very cute
Basically,
though.
it's not. It's not
They're all
cute.
cute.
None
All
of
the
them are cute.
aberrations,
It,
all the
it should be
aberrations are
said.
cute.
This is a fight that we've had for a long time. None of the aberrations are cute. Not even the Tal'Vray, no matter how often Chris says it. They're not cute.
They're all my
Basically, he
children.
turned his dog into like this weird creature that is a 10 by 10 foot butthole dog. It's just got a big old sucky
It's like a
face
leech.
thing.
It's kind
It
of
is
leech
disgusting.
tentacle face.
I-
Yeah, it's not good.
I cannot properly describe it. It is disgusting.
The
I
art's
hate
pretty
it.
good, yeah.
Yeah. That's the point, really. All of these creatures are disgusting and terrifying. But yeah, he basically mutated his own dog into this monster, and now he's trying to mutate you as well. So now you must fight your way out, as one does as adventurers, of course. And you end up finding out about this whole cult sort of slowly corrupting the land all around this sleepy town while no one's any the wiser. And from there, it's basically go ahead. You have reason for this stuff to be in your world now. Essentially, the original spark of this creature arriving on Earth is a random farmer finding a meteorite in his field, and it ends up like taking over his mind. And from there, it just spirals out of control as this world is slowly infected and changed. And a few levels later, bit of leeway since the higher level one starts at level 12, the lower level one ends at level 5. Originally, we had some more planned, but sadly, we were kind of running out of time.
Smaller team. We can do what
we're
we
just
can.
3 people, 2 of which write, really.
And it was always about making sure we got the product to everyone on time. And you get too ambitious, as we've all seen in too many video games and other projects that we love, it becomes a house of cards and falls in on itself. You can't do that.
Even if you don't get too ambitious, just things happen.
Things can go wrong, so you got to keep it, kind of tight. But I
see you in the chat raising people against me, and you are wrong.
What happened?
I don't have a picture of the Tal'Vray with me right now, but it is not cute.
It is. It's fine. It's great. It's like a little tentacle rock guy. He's great. But so the high level adventure, technically all of these are going to take place in the place called the Telemar Flats. It's just, again, it's kind of based off of my hometown, at least specifically the stuff I've written really kind of leans into that. People that they love good food, good company. They love the hard work of one another, kind of helping out, your neighbor kind of thing. Pretty classical, like Southern vibes, to be honest. I wrote what I knew, and I love my hometown. I might have moved away, but I still love it. And so it's about basically a land baron calls you in, and he's essentially begging the party to show up because, of course, they're level 12/13 at this point. And why show up to a random house? We can get paid pretty much anywhere we go. But he offers good titles or wealth, and just, hey, everything he can as a baron. And then it kind of goes into basically let your players introduce themselves how they might see fit. There's going to be a carriage sent for them, but they might not want to handle that. They might not want to do that. They're level 12 and 13. They might want to blazing, just teleport in and just make a scene. They might want to do that. Let them do this. Like, allow them to set this up. Allow them to set the stage of how they arrive. And then it basically gets into meeting with the Baron and his financial advisor. They, boring kind of stuff. And then you learn very slowly that there are like the problems that are plaguing this area. Kidnappings and assaults are rising. However, it seems the Inquisitors in the region are not doing anything about it, or perhaps even covering it up. Although the Baron is very loath to say that aloud because his High Inquisitor is roaming the premises and wouldn't want to insult him. But you basically go through this very tense kind of. It depends on, of course, how they role play the character, the DM and stuff. But you go through the meal with the Baron. You kind of come to an agreement as to what kind of contract you might want. And while learning more about him. Do you trust him? Do you trust the advisor, who seems to be just trying to get every penny she can out of this? And like, and she's very keen and like cunning and but doesn't seem evil, or does she? Like the High Inquisitor seems a bit aloof, So it's more about the role play in the beginning, and it also gives the party, who, especially if you're jumping into this adventure with a brand new group with level 12 characters, that's a lot. Even if you're an experienced player, that's a lot. That's a lot of abilities, and anytime you jump into new characters, you need time to get into that skin. And so it's more about letting the party go through that in chapter 1. Then they learn things, they get their contract handled. They move on to chapter 2, which is going to essentially a sleepy little town to investigate the more direct, essentially a sweet little old grandma took it upon herself to directly walk her way to the Baron's house, in defiance of the local inquisitor, because she knew nothing was getting done. And because of this, the party is here, all because of one sassy grandma. So, which I don't know, I just like that. I like that a big epic quest can be started by something so benign,
It
and
makes me
it's
think of the Ukrainian grandmother that's handing out sunflower seeds.
yes, yes, yes. Plant trees. Yes, enjoy. It's like, oh God. That's yeah, for real. And it goes into the cultists who are starting to kind of twist the local religion into something that suits their means and suits this kind of like the twisting of the faith, which is not so subtle, but then the party might, move on. They learn that there's this massive grave site, essentially this like ring of uh, once again, very classic. A meteorite fell not too long ago, and it created a mountain called Old Scar. But whenever it fell, it killed a bunch of people. It killed everybody who lived there, and this gravesite was set up around it. And this region essentially sends all of their dead there. It's this massive site, and then more mysteries unfold there, where you're starting to learn that everything might not be what it seems to be. Like, everything's not what it appears to be with these like monks at this monastery, this Temple of the Fallen Star. And then it leads to the inner bowels of the meteorite itself, which any in the Telemar region, they know that long ago an angel fell, and he blessed their fields, and because the people, they worked tirelessly to dig through this meteorite to reach him, and of course, because they saved him, he granted them this blessing, and that's why the fields are always so bountiful. But the party will realize, they will discover what truly fell all those years ago, and that's like kind of, that's either the party have saved the world, or they better get to re-roll in another set of characters, because something big comes right after that if the DM wishes to. Because again, even though the adventure beyond is not written yet, all the tools are there to do it. The maw's there, all of these terrifying creatures, all of these extra like twisted tables that can help change the environment and build stories. That's all there.
And what is the maw?
So there is a page on that, and it's basically, it depends on what the DM needs. As any big bad evil guy that's an eldritch horror could be, but this one specifically is like, it was always meant to be change personified and like exemplified in an entity, in a almost a force of nature. And like I said earlier, like it was always one of, it's not yin and yang of my world, but it was a strong opposing force of evil to goodness. And for my table's lore, it is generally that it was this goddess or god of change and development, or chaos even, as those kind of all intertwine. It depends on how you like to run your games, but that was kind of infected with this idea of perfection rather than endless change, or rather, this using their ability to change things endlessly to effectively create perfection. That's a pretty I don't know, like the Borg trying to create, the perfect version of themselves. It's a very classic trope, and it kind of spoke to me in a way. And I really liked the idea of something. I liked the idea of destroying my own setting.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I was like, and if they don't do it, then the next setting is really messed up. And that's fun. And I was like, that's going to be awesome. And so I just kind of created something that could do that, that could spew out aberrations and create endless armies and try to find ways to corrupt the people of the material plane, to trick them into letting it in, to weakening the planar barriers and those type of things. It's just in the end, it's whatever the DM needs it to be. It doesn't need to look like the images do, but because again, it's about change, and endless change with an intellect that is like far beyond anything I could fathom, anything. Uh, and so the abilities and all the monsters hopefully kind of try to simulate that big brain. Oh, there is something really intelligent behind all of this. It's always difficult as a DM to do. You want your beholder to seem really smart, but also not murder everyone by having 60 million traps. Uh,
It's and also there is the trick of creating something that you want to be kind of lasting in your campaign. There's a YouTuber that used to be around. He doesn't make content anymore, I don't think. Called Counter Monkey or Spoonie,
mhm.
and one of his videos where if you stat it, they will kill it.
Oh yeah,
Talking
oh yeah.
about gods, Cthulhu, it doesn't matter what it is.
It
If
will
you
die.
make mechanics for it, it will die somehow.
That's why they don't do it for 5e or for most of them, like straight up.
Yeah, they stop because it is.
Yeah.
It is going to be the thing that ends it for sure. And a big, a evil presence isn't nearly as inspiring or fear inducing if it can be killed.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Which is again like why, at least in my worlds, like uh, they always expected it was going to come back. They never expected it was truly dead. And like I had it to where like these creatures essentially, another good DM trope where hey, big bad controlling monster dies, to give the party a breather. You can kind of everything's dazed or everything gets knocked out, or they're too confused and arguing amongst each other, or of course you have them fight out of it, whatever you choose. But I just had everything turn to goop, turn to ichor, and then instead of continuing the corruption process, it became something else. It became this valuable resource because you always do some fun crystals and stuff, and then we just took the setting from there and like, hey, where does that go? And so it's presumed it's just the blood of this creature has turned into something else, and oh, it's gone. It's gone for real. Don't worry. It's fine.
And these weird crystals that are popping up everywhere and seem to hold unfathomable power, tempting kobolds into opening them up. Those are fine. They're not doing anything.
It's all fine.
Fine.
Again. Yeah, it's fine. As long as you say that, the players never worry. I think, right?
We worry. What are you talking about?
So
good. Then I'm doing my job.
So we're right around the hour mark ish. I'm not really sure because we started late, and I'm not sure what time we started.
True.
Some tech issues in the beginning, but we're gonna wrap things up. If you each would give us some final thoughts before we head on
out. Ethan, you want to go first, real quick?
Final thoughts. I mean, to be honest, I'm really looking forward to you like having a look at it, basically telling us what you think as a professional in quotation marks, in non-quotation marks, depends on how you see yourself, I suppose. But yeah, we had a little chat with a Kobold Press. Pack Tactics. Both kobolds,
Yeah, sure.
It was like really great getting feedback back for it. So frankly, as soon as it's out there, I'm expecting or hoping for a slew of feedback to tell us all the things we did wrong, and what we can do better. But
that's fair.
Genuinely kind of looking forward to it.
Fair. I'm terrified. I'm Chris. I'm
That's great.
I think It legitimately came from our tables, guys. It literally, if I was a chef, this came right out the oven. It's going from my house to yours, and it is filled with every bit of love that I put into my games when I put them on. And I put everything I am into my games, and I try my best to make sure my players, we're all we're all having a good time, and we're telling stories that we're all going to remember. And that's what I hope the book does. I hope it gets you all together at the table to create memorable moments that years later you can text a friend and be like, "Hey, do you remember that? Yeah, I was just thinking about that randomly." And like, I don't know. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for coming on. As always, folks, links are in the description. Go check them out. You can check out and follow the Kickstarter, see if it's something you're interested in. It's there. And keep your eye out for Coven Games. You can follow them on Twitter. And until
January 10th. Sorry.
no worries. January 10th.
I realized I forgot that. That's my fault.
No worries. The follow page is there, so it'll notify you when it goes live. If you guys want to check it out. Until next time, stay nerdy.